Fellbaum. Have you heard about WordNet? WordNet. WordNet. She is the person actually behind this, and she is this psychologist. Or she worked with the psychology department in cognitive sciences. But I mean, this is my message to our IT students, is that you don't have to be only, programmer in order to do something useful. So a lot of people in other fields are also doing something useful. So Christiane from Princeton University, and she is also participating within the project through the Berlin Academy of Sciences as a core partner in this project. Are we ready? So start Skype, and then we wait over the, you don't have the slides, huh? No starts. I prepare actually now. Oh, the problem was from our side. Oh, hi, Christiane.
Hello, can we just Skype then?
Yeah, okay, Skype.
Okay, let's do Skype.
No, actually it's clear. I mean, just the speakers were off. Webex is better, typically. Right? You need to start. Let's start first, try with the Webex again.
Okay, I have to restart my WebEx. Okay, thank you.
Does it take time? Does it take time?
Let's see, how do I start WebEx? Wait, I have to start the WebEx again, just a minute.
Go to the email.
So
yeah, I will. I'm just opening in the
something
window.
about WordNet. It's for English. If you remember my presentation about the Arabic ontology. So this was done for English, and it's ready. It's much older, and it's open source for free. Now, also Christiane started a project about Arabic language. But they stopped, so you can start asking her about.
WordNet is different.
Okay, I have a WebEx.
WordNet is different.
Now I'm logging in.
Let's say that there is no difference. I mean, for non-experts. For experts, yes, there's a difference. But
Join. Okay. Right. Connecting.
Skype is good. Skype is good. We are seeing you very clearly.
You're seeing me clearly, but can you hear me?
Yes. But share your screen via Skype.
Via Skype. Okay, so we're doing Skype now. Okay, hold on.
Yeah,
okay. Skype. Okay, hang on. Skype. How do I share the screen? Full screen video? No. How do I do this? How do I share my screen?
Go to the call menu, share your screen, share your
call menu. Okay, share screen. Okay, share full screen. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Move the camera. Is it working? Is it working?
Just 1 minute. No, it's not yet working.
I think I have to get out of the WebEx. So I'm getting out of WebEx, right?
Okay.
Because it says I'm in. Okay. Because it doesn't like the camera for two purposes. Now it should be okay.
Yes. Okay. Now just go to call. Share your screen.
Okay. Call. Share screen. Share full screen. Okay. You got it?
Yes.
No. You have my slides?
Yes.
Okay. How do I have to minimize you? You have the full slides?
Not yet. Just maximize your window and minimize ours. We will see
Yeah.
you more profit.
Yeah. Don't need to see yourself. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, is that good enough? Is that big enough?
It's fine.
Is that all right?
Yes, okay.
Yes.
It's all right.
Okay, so shall I start?
Yes, yes, please.
Do you
Okay,
see us,
so-
16?
Do you see us? Yeah.
Yes, I can see you.
So I took the opportunity while you were busy with Anton preparing to introduce you. So I was talking about you and where Dirk and.
Okay.
So and let's say good morning for you, because you know this is for us it's like close to the afternoon, and for you it's the morning, right?
Yes, yes.
So good morning.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. And I am sorry I cannot be there in person, but I am certain we will meet sooner or later. And I will do my best to convey my ideas long distance. So I would like to talk about something you may have touched on already, and I apologize if it's boring in places. My topic is the unification or the mapping of abstract concepts, formal concepts, and words in a language. This is based on work I have done for many years, and in particular in the Kyoto project that just finished recently, and that you will hear about from Peak Fossen tomorrow. So you can phrase this problem very simply by saying ontology versus lexicon. An ontology, of course, has roots in philosophy and is now, again, fashionable as a skeleton for knowledge representation. It's a formal representation of concepts and the relations that hold among the concepts. Ontology is language independent and is not concerned with the fact that not all languages label with a word all concepts that are possible. Ontology, of course, is man-made. It is something people thought up already in Aristotle times. And because it is man-made and not natural, there are necessarily multiple different and competing ontologies. And I will say a few words about the one that we have adopted for Kyoto and that I would recommend also for Sierra. Ontologies are desirable because they are formal and mathematical constructs and allow one to perform simple reasoning and inferencing processes over text. The lexicon, by contrast, has its roots in language and linguistics. It's a semantic description of all the words or lexical units in a language. It's necessarily dependent on a language. A given lexicon describes just one language. And fortunately, there is a lot of overlap across languages, but not complete overlap. Because a lexicon is natural and created by a language speaker community, we cannot argue about its contents. We can argue about how to represent the contents, but we cannot say this is or this is not the word. Unlike an ontology, a lexicon is somewhat messy, it's not as regular, and even though there are very clear patterns as to which concepts are lexicalized in a language, the patterns are often broken and not always easy to make out. So why do we want to link an ontology and a lexicon? Well, we want to relate the natural language expressions, the words of language, to formal meaning representations, because we want to make it possible for computers to interpret words and also to interpret text involving words. In order to do this cross-lingually, we can link lexicons and wordlets in particular for many languages, perhaps all languages, to a single shared top ontology. The top ontology provides information about the most abstract general concepts in, as I said, a language-independent, formal, axiomatic format, and enables computers to manipulate these. I already mentioned briefly that the lexicon of choice, and I'm somewhat biased here, is the one I helped construct, namely WordNet. WordNet has the advantage that it is, first of all, very large, and that it is structured already along the lines of a formal ontology. When we started to build WordNet 25 years ago, we stole quite a few ideas from Aristotle and also from psycholinguistics. I won't have time to go into this now, but the claim is that WordNet has some similarity to how people might manipulate, store, and access words in their minds. So WordNet is a big semantic network, or in computer science speak, a directed acyclic graph. It currently exists already for over 60 languages, including Arabic. I give you some references in a moment. And many, though not all, of the WordNets are linked to the Princeton, the original English WordNet that we created here. However, Princeton WordNet is not an ontology, though it bears some similarities. The structure of WordNet is compatible with the formal ontology, which makes mapping a little bit easier, and importantly allows for the extension to a domain-specific terminology. And this is important for Sierra as it was important for Kyoto. WordNet is very easy to use for automatic systems, which is why it is very popular currently in natural language processing. And WordNet encodes two very important properties of natural language, which are easy to handle by human speakers, but very difficult for machines. And these are polysemy and synonymy. Polysemy and synonymy are flip sides of the same coin, namely many-to-many mappings of word forms, the strings, the sequences of letters or characters in written language, to word meaning. Synonymy in WordNet is handled simply by the creation of synonym sets or synsets, which is an unordered set of words which all express the same concept. So here are three synsets in curly brackets, one for a verb, eat, hit, beat, strike, three different word forms, all expressing the same meaning, the same concept, big and large, an adjective synset, and few or line, a noun synset, although this could actually also be a verb synset. So each synset is unique, and it expresses a unique concept. Polysemy, the other many-to-one or many-to-many mapping in language, is the multiple meaning of a single string. So a word form, like table in the example here, has at least 4 different meanings, and it is therefore to be found in 4 different synsets. You can simply say polysemy, n-fold polysemy is reflected in n number of synsets in WordNet. So what is the net of WordNet? Well, the net arises because the synsets are interlinked into a gigantic network. The network is formed by mostly bidirectional pointers or labeled arcs that express or stand for semantic relations. So the main relations, which, as I already said, we really took from Aristotle, are the is-a relation, or hyponymy, or subsumption, or superordinate relation, and many names for it, as in oak and tree. Oak is a kind of tree, or car and vehicle. Car is a kind of vehicle. And the part of the relation, or meronymy, or passive relation. So flower has petals, or conversely, petal is part of the flower. Car has tire, or tire is part of the car, and so forth. There are other relations that are more subtle, perhaps, and more difficult, but are encoded, that link verb and events, or adjectives and properties. Here's a quick picture of the nouns in WordNet. You can see the tree on the left, going from synset cruiser, squad, car, and so forth, all the way up to conveyance, transport, and in fact could even go further up to entity. And on the right, you see the meronym, the part of relations, which themselves, of course, can be structured with the is-a relation. So this is a quick, simplified cutout of the network. Here is the data model. You have the concepts in green on the left and the lexicon on the right. And the only thing you really need to notice is all the way on the left are the relations, like kind of or part of. And the other thing you should notice that the lexicon is much smaller than the concept inventory. And that is because the words have many meanings. So bank in the lexicon, the word, goes to two different kinds of concepts. One, the financial institution, and one, the side of the river. So this is again, the phenomenon of polyphony. Here are some WordNet stats from WordNet 3.0. We actually have recently released 3.1, but the statistics have not changed much. Just to give you an idea of how large WordNet is, look at the right-hand column, the synsets, 82,000 for nouns, 13,000 for verbs, and so forth, for a total of 117,000. Notice also that nouns really make up the bulk of the lexicon and of the synsets. And we have only very few adverbs and relatively few verbs and adjectives. You can also see in the middle column the word forms, which are of course many to one, because many for synsets, because many word forms are in one given synset. But again, you notice that nouns prevail. So nouns are really the meat of the language. As I said, there are many different WordNets for well over 60 languages now, and I led the effort for an Arabic WordNet that was funded by the US government a few years ago. The project has finished, but Arabic WordNet is still maintained and continue to be developed at the Polytechnical University of Barcelona under the direction of Horacio Rodriguez. And once in a while we talk about reviving this effort, and this might be something we could aim for in Sierra, perhaps write a proposal to continue developing Arabic WordNet. Here's a partial bibliography, which you have already, and I can send you more, this reference to the Arabic WordNet. The coverage of the Arabic WordNet was 10,000 concepts. Base concepts refer to concepts at the middle level of the hierarchical tree structure, very common words, very frequent words that also have a lot of connections to other terms, either super or subordinate terms. We also focused on named entities and the semi-automatic extension. Some of this work is still going on in Barcelona. At the end of the project, the coverage was as follows. We had over 11,000 synsets and over 23,000 words, so about 2 words per synset, as you can see. In the box below is a breakdown by part of speech, adjective, nouns again being by far the largest component. R stands for adverb, very small, and verbs, the second largest component. And notice that we had a lot of named entities, which were a focus of the work. We also developed software in the context of Arabic WordNet, which is available and can be used in the future. We have a lexicographer's web interface, which allows people to work even off-site and construct more synsets and more connections for Arabic WordNet. A user's web interface and something called a word spotter, which is software aimed at detecting lexical units and running text for integration into Arabic WordNet. I don't really have time to go into that in detail, but here are some references. Here's the web interface, which, as I said, allows people to extend Arabic WordNet. The user's web interface, where users can consult Arabic WordNet, search for words, roots, synsets, and corresponding English words and synsets. And it has a virtual keyboard for users who do not have access to an Arabic keyboard. A word spotter, again, here's the reference to the University, the Polytechnic University in Barcelona, which is based on the Aramov stemma, a morphological analyzer, and I think it performs rather well in identifying additional words or words in general for natural language processing in a running text. And here is the reference to the browser. The semi-automatic extension of Arabic WordNet that is going on, that I already alluded to, and I don't really have time to go into right now, but it is again active research, or it was until recently, and something we might want to consider integrating and extending in Sierra. Let me go back quickly to the WordNet meets ontology theme of my talk. So to combine these two different entities, or these two different constructs, a lexicon, WordNet, and the ontology, we want to map synsets, which we loosely term concepts, to axioms in a top ontology. And we can profit from the existing ontology-like WordNet structure for inheritance. In other words, we develop and work very carefully on the top structure, which contains the very general concepts, and then we rely on WordNet's encoding of the is-a relation to hang from these top concepts more specific concepts as far down as we might. The ontology of choice that we used for Kyoto, and that was actually chosen by my colleague Amanda Hicks, who will also be part of the Sierra project, and who is a trained philosopher, an ontologist and logician, is Guarino and Welty's Dolce Light Plus, which seemed to her like the best candidate, and also importantly is consistent with other ontologies. So it is not necessarily that one excludes all the others. Amanda noticed and worked on the fact that crucial important ontological distinctions must be drawn at the top level, because, as I said, they will be propagated down into the lower levels. And any mistake, any logical mistake, or any mistake in the representation of the very abstract top concepts can have nasty consequences further down. An assumption is that many top or near the top concepts are universally lexicalized, and that the middle and especially the lower levels are language specific. This is intuitively convincing. When we come to terminology, languages tend to differ quite a bit from one another. In the middle ontology, so words like car, house, food, person, and so forth, most languages have lexical equivalents. The middle level is also important because it includes the high-frequency words. So let me go to the top ontology, which, as I said, is really the most important one from the point of view of design, and one wants to draw important distinctions right there. Distinctions have to be drawn among endurance, which are entities, and in language are usually nouns, on the one hand, and endurance on the other hand, which are denote events, and in language are lexicalized as verbs. And thirdly, qualities, which are in a language expressed with adjectives. The top ontology must accommodate the representation of domain-relevant processes, states, entities, and qualities in the ontology further down, and support the identification in text so that reasoning of a text can be performed accurately. The knowledge in the ontology must pertain to entities, and in particular to their essential and rigid properties. Rigidity and essence are important for the distinction between types and roles. So types of things are really what the is-a kind of relation encodes. So a plant is a kind of organism. But an invasive plant is not really a type, but a role. Namely, the specific plant that does something or has some kind of quality. And this quality may be time dependent, it may not be universal. So what might be called an invasive plant in one place might be a house plant or even cherished as a decorative plant in another part of the world. So while a plant is always a plant, an invasive plant is not always an invasive plant. And this distinction between rigidity, types, and roles, non-rigid entities, has to be carefully encoded in the ontology. And this was done for the Kyoto ontology that I hope we can recycle for Sierra. This distinction is especially important when we deal with real texts or with applications such as tourism development, because many new concepts come into the language that in fact are roles. For the Kyoto domain, which was the environment, we had endemic species, threatened species, extinct species, which are all roles. And as I said, similarly, we expect this to be the case for the Sierra domains. My colleague Amanda Hicks, whom I already mentioned, and my other colleague in Berlin, Axel Herold, developed a tool called Rudify for the automatic distinction between types and roles. And this tool is based on so-called lexical semantic patterns, little phrases, which you will see on this slide, that can identify whether the two elements X and Y in this phrase are in a type relation or in a role relation. So when you say X's and other Y's, that is usually, not always, but usually a type, whereas phrases like Y used to be an X or Y is considered an X identifies a role relation. So again, I hope that we can use this tool to build the ontology for Arabic. Unify can be used, obviously, to identify roles and types in documents and also to model them accordingly in the ontology, and extend the ontology. Knowledge in the ontology not only pertains to entities with respect to, say, types and roles, but also to processes, and in particular to processes that have certain temporal properties, states that have long-term temporal properties, achievements and accomplishments that are sudden processes with a definite ending, and so forth. So again, I won't have time to go into this, and I can get rather technical, but I just want to say here that the Kyoto and London distinctions that allow one to identify processes with different temporal properties. The same is true for qualities. Amanda Hicks has distinguished binary qualities, indefinite qualities, which are yes or no, dead and alive, indefinite qualities, which have no clear temporal limitation, and measurable quantities, such as spatial and spatial dimensions, height and weight, long, short, broad, wide, and so forth. Qualities have also been modeled very carefully with regard to their properties, whether they're stable, whether their value can change, how they're related to other properties, such as tiny and small, scalar properties, and so forth. We also have other relations, such as entailment, which is a kind of subsumption with respect to processes. If one process has been asserted, it may entail another, more general process. We have encoded participation, and as I already mentioned, temporal and spatial relations. Here is a quick sketch of how WordNet's entities and words have been mapped to ontologies with specific relations. So relations for rigid entities are equivalent, subclass, and instance, and for non-rigid entities, a whole host of relations, such as within a domain, role-playing, participant, participating in the state, co-participant, and so forth. And there may be others, This is subject to further ontological development, but I think we have captured the most important ones that will allow us to perform accurate reasoning over texts. So there are still a lot of open questions. One, of course, is one of grainedness, how subtle or fine-grained, or conversely, how coarse-grained a picture of the world, the language, ontology, and reasoning one wants to have. And as always in research, we will have to strike a medium ground. We want to make fine-grained decisions to draw important or sufficiently important distinctions, but the process always has to be manageable by automatically, and also by naive humans, because even though humans, of course, have an amazing command of the huge lexicon, their reasoning ability is not that of a programmed computer or perhaps a robot. And humans, as we know, are amazingly inaccurate in their reasoning. Nevertheless, we build our systems for human consumption and for human applications, so we have to keep in mind a certain level of naivete or perhaps coarse-grainedness. So that's really all I wanted to say. I went a little bit over time, but I hope I've given you an oversight of what we have done already. What are the big questions that the Berlin partners are hoping to address, and also some of the work that we have done already and that we hope we can piggyback on for Sierra. So, thank you.
Thank you, Christiane, for your interesting presentation. And it's actually mixing future work and also some background. So let me ask the audience if there are some questions. Questions?
Welcome. I would like a question. What is the difference between homonymy and subtype relation?
So
between meronomy and, sorry, could you repeat that?
So there was a question on that. Is there any difference between homonymy and the subtype relation in mathematical sense? I think you mean yes.
Well, we don't draw a distinction. We use these words interchangeably, just as we sometimes say is a or hyperonymy and hyponymy. There are all kinds of words. Now, as I tried to say, this distinction really hides several. So it hides the proper type-subtype relation, and it also includes the role relation. And actually something I did not mention that is encoded in the English WordNet is the instance relation, which relates a named entity to a superordinate. So Obama is an instance of a president. It's not a role, and it's not a type. That is a third relation. And the instance relation, which I did not mention, always is characterized by the fact that all the instances are leaves, are terminal nodes in a tree. So I believe those three, type, role, and instance, are always somewhat sloppily subsumed under the hyponymy relation.
So may I extend it to myself the question? I mean, is it mixed because it's not understood, or just by mistake, or it's a future war?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah. Again, I think it depends who you ask this question. Ordinary language speakers who are not, who don't know anything about ontology, will easily agree that something is a kind of, or is a type of to all three. They don't really, are not sensitive to this distinction. And but an ontologist, of course, is. And I think for our purposes, it is important to draw these distinctions, as I try to argue, because role subtypes have certain properties that are very different from real types and proper types. And instances, as I said, are always named entities, which are another category that I use to distinguish. So I think for our purposes, we must make these distinctions. must draw these distinctions. And I think, Mustafa, you agree with me, and I hope everybody else in the room does too.
Yeah, actually, we tried the Arabic ontology to make it like very clear distinction between the three actually.
Yes, good. Okay.
There is another question.
Can you tell us a little bit more how the Arabic word net was built?
I will take the second question together, the third question.
Professor Fellbaum, from your experience with building the Arabic word net, what was the main challenges?
Okay, Mustafa, can you repeat? Yeah.
So the question was, how did you build the Arabic ontology? Sorry, the Arabic word net. And the other question was, what were the main challenges?
For the Arabic.
For the
okay.
Arabic word net.
Yes, I have to say from the beginning that my knowledge of Arabic is very, very limited. And we had two native speakers did the actual lexicography. And then we had me as a WordNet expert, if you want, and then people who are natural language processing and computational linguistics experts. So we had really three different kinds of people stirring the pot and addressing different questions. We started by automatically identifying, in fact they had been identified before, 10,000 target concepts from the English WordNet that had also been encoded in many other WordNets, including European WordNets. And we tried to identify those in Arabic, mostly manually, but also semi-automatically, and then build an Arabic WordNet that would contain these 10,000 or turned out to be 11,000 concepts. We made local extensions so that are Arabic specific. So I remember, for example, when we went to the family relations, I believe Arabic has many, many words for uncle and a very different kind of ontology, if you want, or different mapping from kinship relations to the word uncle than English does. So we try to accommodate those language-specific things in the Arabic WordNet and added them to the shared 10,000 concepts. Does that answer some of the question? Or?
What were the main challenges? I mean, did you stop the project? Are you going to continue?
Well,
what was the biggest challenge? Actually, I understood that it was built manually, right?
Yes, it was built manually, yes.
So there was no automation.
I'm sorry?
There was no automation.
No, but the extensions that I mentioned earlier that are now currently going on in Barcelona are done semi-automatically. But yeah, it was basically roughly a manual translation from the 10,000 English basic concepts to the corresponding Arabic concepts. Well, some of the challenges were, as I already indicated, some mismatches, so things where Arabic did not have a word, or conversely, where Arabic had many more words that had to be, where the ontology had to be extended, as in the case of, I believe, uncle. So it was, I would say overall, I'm giving a very general answer here, but I would say there were no challenges that cannot be overcome or that we feel, and I believe the people in Barcelona would agree, that we feel cannot be overcome. So it's a question of funding, as always, and this is why our project stopped. We had money for 3 years, and that was the end. Of course, a question of human resources. It's very labor-intensive to build a WordNet, but scientifically, linguistically, or ontologically, I think we are at the point where we know what we want to do and how we want to proceed. So I do not see any major conceptual scientific challenges on that level. And I hope I'm right.
Yeah. Also, actually, although we are in a hurry, but please allow me to ask a question about the Toyota ontology.
Yes.
So I understood this is kind of special ontology or special word for the environment domain, right?
Yes.
Why this is not part of the word itself? Why, I mean, why you didn't just extend the syntax, or let's say the glosses, or let's say the meanings, and where need to include it?
Yes, that's a very good question, and that could be fairly easily done. So again, it's just a question of somebody sitting down and doing it. But it can easily be done, as it can be done with any kind of other extension. And let me just add that many WordNet users who have specific applications in mind have built term databases, if you want, a terminological, very domain-specific WordNets, and have downloaded our WordNet and just simply attached their terminology to the appropriate nodes. So the same can be done for Kyoto and also for Sierra. Again, it's just a question of time and manpower.
Actually, for the purposes of the project, how big is the Kyoto ontology, and how many languages does it support?
Let's see, in Kyoto we had English, of course, we had Dutch, Italian, and Spanish, I think. I'm embarrassed now to say, I think it was Spanish. So we only had 4 or 5 languages, but the number of languages that can be added are, of course, open-ended. And the main focus really from my point of view, from the Berlin project, was on the development of the upper-level ontology and making those distinctions. And the lexical, that was the hard work. And I think my colleagues, especially Amanda Hicks, did an excellent job. And I think the attachment of the mapping onto actual language is not so difficult once you get, you have identified the proper relations and know how to integrate the words of a domain lexicon.
Okay, so let me please end because we still have another presentation in the conference, and it's already we are too late. But I believe, Christiane, that we should Skype maybe in Saturday, because we have a project meeting.
Yes, yes.
We have like more technical questions regarding Sierra.
Yes.
And we will be in touch. I think we need to ask you more, and also to show you like the other components that can be added to the also to the project.
Yes, yeah, I would very much like to see the other presentations that were given today, so I can catch up.
Okay.
And I will try to do that tomorrow, and then on Saturday we can have a more technical and forward-looking discussion.
So are you asking everyone to make me the presentation here to send you his slides?
That would be lovely, yeah. That would be very nice, or put it up on a website or whichever, share it in some way or another, yes.
So please do, Carlo, can you please, everyone send the presentation, because you have the email or right?
Okay, thank you very much, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Christiane.
Okay, thank you, and I will be in touch.
Yeah, have a nice day.
Bye-bye. Bye.
I am reading.